Roger Federer needs no introduction. Being such a major name in the sporting world, one always wonders, what is it like inside the life of an all-time GOAT? Ever had that thought? Let's uncover the untold truth about the Swiss tennis giant. When enlisting the most jaw-dropping facts and figures for greats as big as Roger Federer, the first question that comes to mind is, how much does an athlete like that make? Well, let us enlighten you and, yes, get a good grab on your jaw. According to multiple sources, the tennis star has an astounding net worth of $450 million. An elite like Roger is bound to have deep pockets, that is no surprise. But geez, that deep? If you think that's an absurdly large sum of money for a man whose job description is to hit the ball incredibly well, Forbes has a thorough breakdown of Federer's fortunes. This source estimates Roger Federer's net worth at well over $500 million. Federer has earned over $124 million in prize money throughout his protracted career, which itself is a record. That's right, the priciest player in the game. He's earned an additional $86 million through sponsorship partnerships with brands like Mercedes-Benz, Credit Suisse, and Rolex. However, the Japanese clothing giant Uniqlo, which signed Federer to a $300 million 10-year marketing contract in 2018, appears to be where the tennis pro gets the great majority of his wealth. While we're talking about riches, let's also touch on the topic of spending, shall we? The greatest tennis star in history clearly has money to spare, and he occasionally spends it on rather wholesome causes. Federer is a well-known and generous philanthropist, and essentially sports refer to him as the greatest philanthropist in the sporting world, and that is saying something. Federer reportedly donated an astonishing $50 million to humanitarian charities in 2018 alone. That is insane, but just as impressive as well. But the tennis star isn't done impressing all of us just yet. The Roger Federer Foundation is Federer's own charitable organization. According to reports, the organization has helped over 1 million children in Africa and Switzerland receive an education. Over 300,000 children are currently enrolled in programs funded and run by Roger's organization. Federer decided to concentrate his charitable efforts on education. The best way to eventually enable people to take care of themselves, in his opinion, is by providing them with the necessary knowledge. The tennis ace believes in the power of the people and says that all they might need is a little push and some initial empowerment. He thinks that education is the key factor that gives children this initial empowerment to further shape their futures for the better. But hey, Roger's riches are not the only record he holds. It doesn't even scratch the surface. The list of Federer's records is lengthy and just as mind-boggling. From 2004 until 2008, Roger Federer maintained his position as the #1 player in the sport. That is an incredible 237 weeks at the top, which is by itself a record. Jimmy Connors, who has held the top spot for just 160 weeks, is ranked second. Please, that is not even close. With 20 wins under his belt, Federer owns the record for the most Grand Slam victories during the Open era as well. Additionally, he has the record for the most Wimbledon victories in the Open era with 8 victories, as well as the most Australian Open victories in the Open era with 6 victories. His incredible 5-year victory streaks at Wimbledon, 2003 to 2007, and the US Open, 2004 to 2008, are even more impressive. Both of them are record streaks, as Federer completely owned 2 slam events at the same time for 4 consecutive years. Beat that! Federer also made a record-breaking 23 consecutive appearances in the semifinals in 2010, which is one of the most incredible feats in tennis history. Federer also has 103 ATP Tour victories during the Open era, which is the most ever. With 6 victories, he also has the most ATP Tour Finals championships. Leave some records for the others, Roger, please. It's possible that some of the incredible records set by the Swiss tennis sensation will be surpassed at some point, and possibly very soon. After all, his younger rival, Rafael Nadal, is only 1 Grand Slam away from reaching the century mark. And even younger Novak Djokovic is closing in on Federer's record of being the world's #1 player. Federer is cool with other people breaking his records, though, because he has broken a lot of them himself. Furthermore, a few of his accomplishments may be unbreakable. From 2005 to 2010, he also served as a Grand Slam end boss for less talented athletes, making an incredible 18 of the 19 finals that were available. Oh, and did we mention the records Roger set on the basis of his age? Hear this. Tennis is usually a sport played by young, active people. The concept of a player being the #1 player at the not-so-tender age of 36 seems borderline absurd. The BBC reports that Roger Federer accomplished this feat in 2018 by defeating Robin Haas in the Rotterdam Open. Federer, who was born in 1981, did this to overtake Andre Agassi, the previous record holder for men, and Serena Williams, who was 35 when she held the women's #1 ranking in 2017. Federer became the oldest top-ranked tennis player in history. Isn't that great? Federer's magnificent achievement came 14 years after he reached the #1 spot for the first time. In 2017, at 35 years and 174 days, the tennis ace became the second oldest player in history to win a Grand Slam title. However, to put things in context, the only older Grand Slam winner of the Open era is Ken Rosewall, who was 37 years, 2 months, and 1 day old when he won the Australian Open, and that was way back in 1972. In fact, Federer is one of only 2 21st century names in the top 9 oldest players. The only other player was Andre Agassi, who won the Australian Open in 2003 at the age of 32 years, 8 months, and 28 days. However, playing at such high levels takes its toll on the body. You would guess that being in the sport for over 2 decades, Federer must have a history with accidents and injuries. Contrary to that, Roger Federer has a surprisingly low number of serious injuries. He believes that his absence of injuries is the result of 3 factors: pure chance, a deep understanding of his own body, and a very smooth style of play that is less taxing on the body. The Swiss maestro, however, has reportedly struggled with sporadic knee and back issues, according to his biography. Federer reportedly inflicted a severe knee injury just by giving his child a bath. He then experienced an odd click coming from the knee, necessitating arthroscopic surgery and forcing him to miss 2 months of work. Ouch, that one must have hurt. Federer seemed to be dismissing his knee injury's absurd circumstances as simply one of those things that happen. But these simple somethings led him into 3 major surgeries and also eventually became the reason Roger chose to retire. And since we're talking about trouble, let's talk a little bit about Roger's toughest losses. His defeat at the 2014 US Open came at the hands of a technically weak number 14 seed named Marin Cilic, who somehow plowed right through the Swiss superstar and made him appear feeble. And then, of course, Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic have been the toughest rivals throughout Roger's career. Federer has lost all 5 of his major Grand Slam matches to the 2 tennis titans. In particular, the Spanish King of Clay made Federer's 2008 challenge by defeating the Swiss in their protracted Wimbledon final. He also crushed him at the French Open 6-1, 6-3, and 6-0, to the point where Nadal felt the need to apologize afterwards. Well, with Roger out of the game now, we are only wondering who's going to be ruling the tennis world now, the Spanish legend Nadal or Novak Djokovic, who just brought home his 22nd Grand Slam win. We can't wait to find out.